Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
The number 1 seed is begging to be taken. It says, please, Seattle, come get me. Have more home games at the Clink and a bye.
And Brandan Schultz.
That's irrational fandom. That's how fandom works.
Go Hawks!
On a quest to own the West, yippee-ki-yay, we make the ground shake. On game day, 12 man, yeah, he's feeling it, he's vital. The Seahawks coming to take division titles.
Welcome to episode 175 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, joined by my good buddy, Montana Seahawker Adam Emmert.
Hey, man, I know that the bye week is good for the team, and they get to rest up and heal up and all that. But man, I hate the bye week. It sucked this weekend having to watch every other team play and not our beloved Hawks. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we didn't hear about any new injuries somehow springing up throughout the bye week.
Oh, you didn't hear about Luke Joeckel?
It's not a new injury.
No, but it's we have a time frame now.
Right. No, we'll definitely get to that because I have some frustrations regarding that. But yes, I'm glad the bye week's over. Even though we beat the bye week, I'm ready to see the Hawks play again this Sunday.
We can get into that. We'll preview this upcoming game against the Giants. We want to talk about Brandan Albert, speaking of the offensive line with Luke Joeckel going down for a couple weeks or being out for a couple weeks, that the Seahawks were looking to bring in some talent on the offensive line. They were looking at it. They were considering it.
Were they? Not sure they were actually considering it.
I don't know. We'll get into it. We'll talk about Brandan Albert, try and figure out what was going on there, because there was a lot of speculation over this past week. We're going to bring on Patrick Chalvoy, bartender from Carroll East.
Yes.
He shares some great stories about game day at the bar in New York and how that bar came to be and how 12s rallied around him during a time of need for him.
Very cool. I look forward to that interview. Is he going to be working the day that we're there?
He's going to be there this weekend.
Awesome. Okay, very cool. It'll be great to meet up face to face. That's for sure.
And in the second half of the show, we have a Pentagon update from one of our members of the flock inside the Pentagon.
Yes, the tentacles of the pod reach far and deep.
And
yes, they do.
And another high-ranking member of the flock checked in. Washington Lieutenant Governor Habib has a Better at Life nomination, so we'll get to that too.
Fantastic. Man, I feel like we're starting to get pull. I mean, I think we could get the authorization of a invasion of a small, country somewhere, maybe. Like, I think we're getting close to that kind of power.
Really small, though.
Yeah, itty bitty, like an island nation,
right.
Where we'd need like one SEAL team, and then we'd be good.
You think we could pull that together?
I think so. I think we're getting close.
That was not a goal when we originally started the show, but it might be one of the ones to add.
Yeah, I want to conquer a small nation and
and
make
at least
it our
have
own.
Some kind of say into how it goes down.
Oh yeah, and not only that, but I want the island then to be renamed like the 12dom or Seahawkers United or something like that. The United Islands of Seahawkers Nation. I want our own country. That's what I want for this pod next. Is I want our own country.
I like Flocktopia, Flocktopolis.
Flocktopia. I'm in on Flocktopia.
Okay.
That works. Yeah. No, I want a micronation. I want it to be our own. That's our next Patreon goal.
We still have to get to the drunk show before we get to Flocktopia.
Well, I guess so. I mean, but baby steps, man. I'm just saying. I want to make sure that we have that big picture goal out there, so everybody knows.
I'll be sure and update it.
Okay.
Well, let's get into the show this week, Adam. The Seahawks, as you mentioned, well, they didn't lose during the bye week, but can we really say that they won the bye week when we watched the Rams get the win this weekend in Jacksonville? We saw the Cardinals get a big win as well, and I don't think we can be super happy about that. The 49ers went down, but they're so far out of it now that they're starting their backup quarterback. So did the Seahawks really win the bye week?
Well, they didn't lose. But the point being is that the Rams win over the Jags. I mean, that was back and forth. It was close. It could have gone either way. So that doesn't blow my hair back. It's not something that I look at and be like, oh, the Rams, they really bounced back after playing the Seahawks, man. They're dangerous. Holy crap. Just like every power ranking that came out this last week, Rams beat the Jags and they catapult 96 spots up to, I think on one power poll, I think, was it Bloomquist that
it was DCH.
It was DCH. Okay. That put up a power poll and they had the Rams at 3. number 3 in the whole NFL. And it's like, wow, this whole, knee-jerk recency bias reactions to teams every week in these power rankings are ridiculous. But no, that one didn't impress me much. I'm not too worried about that. And then the Cards game, I understand that AP found a time machine, came back and ran really well. I haven't watched that game yet, but I, read the articles, seen the stats and all that. That's unsustainable. There's no way he does that throughout a season. I'm not even close to concerned about that.
Yeah, I want to go back to the Rams because DCH did share this, and I thought the write-up was really interesting. The Rams won a game that, while it might have flown under the radar over the weekend, was one of the more interesting matchups of Week 6. The defenses were in control for much of the day, but Los Angeles received a big boost from its special teams, especially Pharoh Cooper's brilliant return on the game's opening kickoff. Also noticeable is the strong season Todd Gurley's putting together. 116 more rushing yards on Sunday, everybody. They were at number 8 last week. They jumped 5 spots over a win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Have we somehow warped into some kind of alternate universe?
The Jags are a solid team.
But is it enough for 5 spots?
No.
Well, I think Dave Bloomquist nailed it. Says any entity associated with the NFL, podcasts, NFL.com, NFL Network, are desperately trying to make the Rams happen. They're a huge investment. They made a huge investment in LA. And Kofi Poku says NFL needs them to look like a Super Bowl contender just to sell tickets in LA. So that might be what's going on here.
No, it definitely is. I mean, we've seen this with the East Coast teams for years and years and years, whether that's Baltimore or New York or even a team like Dallas. I mean, they definitely get a lot more shine from the national media and a lot more hype because they're in a big market. One team that's always baffled me in that regard that doesn't get more is the Bears. The Bears in the 3rd biggest market in the country don't seem to get that same sort of media bounce that Dallas or New York or now LA gets. It's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with Bloomquist there a little bit.
Well, let's get into this game against the Giants. And we heard Coach Carroll talk about it in his press conference this week. He said it was great to see this Giants team playing at their best and that there's a lot to be gained from that. And really, when you look back at the Giants game against the Broncos, you do see, especially the Giants defense playing at their best. You see the Giants run game breaking a few runs against that Broncos defense. You see Evan Ingram breaking out as their lone receiving option. Somehow this great Broncos defense with all their defensive backs couldn't find a way to cover a tight end and shut him down. I don't know why they didn't just leave most of the other receivers wide open and concentrate on the tight end, but maybe that's something for the Seahawks now to figure out going into this week.
It's because their secondary has the dumbest nickname in all of sport, the no-fly zone. Oh, how creative. How many no-fly zones have there been? I think there's another currently in the NFL, right? Isn't that what the Cardinals use too?
I thought it was the Cardinals zone, yeah.
I mean, give me a break. Come up with something original for your vaunted secondary. I mean, I understand not everybody can come up with something as great as Legion of Boom, but do better, man. That's ridiculous. Yeah, you hit a few things right on the head. Their offense was all Evan Ingram and the running back Darkwa, who ran hard, and he's a big load to bring down, no doubt. I was stunned that through halftime adjustments, the Broncos didn't figure out a way to really blanket Ingram better. We have seen the Seahawks over the course of the last year and a half really get way better at covering tight ends, and especially with no big threats. Otherwise, I mean, I couldn't recognize one guy that was out there running routes for the Giants. They're going to be able to focus in on that tight end, and I would imagine that they're going to make life difficult for Eli Manning with that offensive line. That was the best the Giants' offensive line has played all year.
That was one thing that just confounded me, knowing that the Giants were winning that game, because you had Von Miller on the other side of the football for the Broncos, and somehow, how is he not more of a story in this game? Because all year it's been talked about how terrible the Giants' offensive line has been. And the Broncos weren't able to get to Eli Manning?
I couldn't figure that out either. It was weird. I think it was one of those games. I want to thank the Broncos up front for taking one on the chin for us a week early. It's one of those games where a team that's underachieved for 4 or 5 weeks and is really in the dumpster comes out and they put it together for that one game, give everybody some hope, and then they go back to underachieving.
Yeah,
like the Broncos took that one on the chin for us. Like they got it out of their system a week before we show up in New York, which is great. It was really a combination of the Giants playing about as well as they possibly could, and the Broncos really playing almost as poorly as they possibly could. I was stunned at how ineffective their defense was against the Giants. Not that the Giants ran up huge numbers, but just that they had any success at all. It was crazy.
The Giants didn't put up hardly any numbers against the Broncos. Eli Manning, Orleans Darkwa, he was the one that he really had. He
is the straw that stirs the drink for them right now.
He did, yeah. And just looking at his stat line, 21 rushes, 117 yards. But he had that one long run of 47 yards, which that was huge and setting him up for points. And then Evan Ingram was the other guy, 5 catches for 82 yards. Outside of that, Eli Manning, 11 completions, 128 yards. The big difference between him and Trevor Siemian, puts up 376 yards, but 2 interceptions. And the one, to give up a pick six, to give up the one pick six to Janoris Jenkins, that was a big part in turning this game around into the Giants' favor.
It really was. Siemian was terrible. And that was what was most fun about watching this game with Jared. I mean, 2 days leading up to this, all I could hear about is how excited he was to, kind of grow with Trevor Siemian. It's just his second year. He's getting a lot better, blah, 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 blah. And me looking at him being like, dude, he's Dave Craig. When he's on, he's amazing. Mm-hmm. And when he's off, he's terrible. And he was off, and he was terrible. He single-handedly cost them that game. There's no doubt about it.
He had a sprained shoulder, which allowed Brock Osweiler to come in and make 4 attempts, get 2 completions. But clearly, he didn't want to give up his job. He was back in there with his sprained shoulder.
Yeah, it was hilarious to watch Jared talk himself back into Brock when he entered the game.
Well, maybe this guy will work after all.
After being around, I'm sure he's going to be better now. It was hilarious.
That's what we do as fans, and it's fun to recognize that.
Here's the thing: if he was a rational fan, he would have been like, I think Brock will be good in Houston. I think Brock might be able to figure it out in Cleveland. And then when he came to Denver, he'd be like, hey, I'm glad we got Brock back because I really do think there's potential there. There's a consistency there. Yeah, no, not Jared. Second John Elway says no. He stinks. Get him out of town. Can't stand him. Second John Elway says yes again, brings him back. I think he'll be good. He'll go through some football rehab. This is gonna be great.
That's irrational fandom. That's how fandom works.
I know. I try to keep that out of this a little bit.
I know. I understand.
Here's one thing about my irrational fandom that popped up during this game, though. Watching that New York defensive line get all sorts of pressure on Siemian and make his life miserable. That scared the
poop fest
out of me.
Right there. I am not looking forward to facing this Giants defensive line. And that was a Giants defensive line without Olivier Vernon, who sat out the last 2 weeks. So we'll see if he ends up playing. Jason Pierre-Paul was dominant in that game.
First game he showed up all year.
Yeah. And then you have Damon Harrison, who's been playing lights out all year.
Snacks is good.
I know.
I like Snacks.
I know. And what's the one common denominator in the teams that have been playing the Seahawks? Every single week, a defensive tackle has been highlighted on the opposite against the Seahawks offensive line. And now we're down Luke Joeckel. It sounds like Mark Lewinsky is probably going to be in there. Damon Harrison on the other side of the line. The one good thing, I feel like Germain Ifedi has been playing pretty okay this year.
Yeah.
So against Jason Pierre-Paul, maybe there's one glimmer of hope there. But then if Olivier Vernon's in as well, holy smokes, it could be difficult.
I think this game's going to end up being a little tougher than we thought it would be just even a week ago. Watching the Giants come to life a little bit and put it together a little bit, it was like, gosh dang it.
Yeah.
I didn't need this now.
Why did you have to do this now?
Just suck. Just suck until we play you, and then we can move on from there. But we'll dip into the conversation regarding Joeckel and what that means for this offense a little bit more later in the show when we talk Brandan Albert. But it's concerning, man. It's very concerning.
How much must Giants fans be upset right now? Because 0-5 going into that game against the Broncos, I think all Giants fans were essentially, they were looking at the schedule. They saw the Broncos on there. They saw the Seahawks on there. And they're looking toward mid-November before they're getting their first win. And now they come out and have a pretty dominant showing on defense with Jenkins and with Pierre-Paul and Harrison. And now it's, you can't feel like you're going to get back in it when you see the Eagles at the top of that division at 5-1. I would just think it must be absolutely frustrating. I don't know if it's Ben McAdoo as coach who gave up play calling, if that was what gave them that little spark this week, but they did something different enough to spark that team. And maybe it was just all the criticism of the fact that with Brandon Marshall being out for injury, Dwayne Harris on IR, another wide receiver, Odell Beckham out for injury, Keon Johnson, another one of their
Brandon
receivers
Marshall.
With a broken foot. Yeah.
Sterling Shepard.
Right.
Yeah, go down the list, right?
And Sterling Shepard may be back against the playing against the Seahawks, but all those other guys out for the season.
Yeah, you wondered if maybe it has to do with the coach, Ben McAdoo. I think you're spot on with that. I think anytime that your head coach looks like he's one of the creepers that lives in a windowless van and drives around town, like he's probably going to be an up and down coach. I'm just saying it's a bad look, and I don't think anybody can follow that guy seriously.
You're not fooling us with the haircut. Like it's better. It's a better look when he cleaned up his hairdo a little bit. But it's still
that better when he's slicking it back?
It's better. You saw what it was before. It's better.
I don't recall what it was before, to be honest.
It's just kind of it was kind of all over the place.
All right. Well, this isn't a good look either. Like the slick back hair isn't working for him. Like I wouldn't trust him with anybody's children. Like just on looks alone. Sorry. Yeah. But I don't know. I can't figure out why this team would be this up and down. I mean, I guess it's the NFL, right? Teams seem to have this ebb and flow to them that is almost inexplicable. And all these teams are really relatively equal. There's not one team in the NFL right now that you look at and be like, that's the team.
Yeah.
They're real dominant. There's not one, and especially in the NFC. So it's
the only one is Philly right now, I feel like, where you look at it and you go, I
still have questions about them.
Well,
I like them.
Right.
Yeah. But I still have questions about them.
Sure.
So it's just weird. So I'm hoping that they revert back to some bad habits. I mean, maybe the suspension of Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie helped light a fire under this team.
That could have been part of it too.
Yeah, you just look for those things that what is it that motivated these guys this week? Because it was just a difference in motivation.
Well, I think a big key to this last game was the fact that Eli Manning did not turn the ball over. And against the Broncos defense, when you take care of the football, you run the football well, you got it. They put enough drives together to get down the field, chew up the clock, and the pick six by Jenkins. That really, that was the formula for them to play the exact perfect game that they needed to do against the Broncos to win.
Yeah, and that's just it. It was the exact perfect game. I just have a hard time seeing him string that together for a second straight week. I'm really hopeful that the pass rush shows up in this game and disrupts Eli Manning.
Because Eli Manning this year, as much as you want to say about him and his offensive line, his completion percentage, it's up in the top quarter of the league. And part of that reason, his adjusted completion percentage is in the top quarter. And part of the reason why that's so high.
Adjusted completion percentage.
I'll give you an adjusted completion percentage.
Right. What does that even mean, adjusted completion percentage?
Because they adjust for the amount of drops. And the Giants receivers have had more drops than any other team this season. So it's not Eli Manning who's throwing wild. It's the fact that his receivers can't hold on to the ball when he throws it to them. So when you adjust for the number of drops wide receivers have, count those as completions, then he would be in the top quarter of the league.
Yeah, probably so. I also know that if you look at the history of the player with Eli Manning, is he does not fare well against the Seahawks defense.
No.
They've eaten him up in the past. And look, I watched him there in Denver try to be Peyton Manning. He really does try to go up there and do all the Peyton things, calling audibles and line checks and blah, 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 blah. It ends up in delay of games and usually gets him in a bad play. He's just stop trying to be Peyton. You're not Peyton. Okay. You're Eli.
Well, you talk about the history of these two teams facing off. The Seahawks are 8-9 in the 17 games that they've played against the Giants. Mm-hmm. And I know we've had recent success against the Giants. We've referred to MetLife as CenturyLink East since Russell Wilson. Yeah, he hasn't lost a game in that stadium.
Yeah.
So I went back because, talk about going back to when Eli Manning came in the league. I wanted to look at the success of these two teams. There were two anomalies in the schedule. The 2008 Seahawks that lost 44-6 in New York. And then there was another loss, the 2010 team that lost 41-7 in Seattle. And that was the one where Whitehurst was the quarterback. There was one common factor, though, in these two games, Adam.
Yeah.
One common factor.
Okay.
Do you know what it was?
No.
Olindo Mare. Since 2005, the Seahawks are undefeated in games Olindo Mare doesn't play in.
That makes sense.
When they play the Giants.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
he clearly, he needed to go.
He had to go. He
had to go.
He cost us wins in those 44-6 and 41-7 games.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely his fault. That sounds like kicker problems to me, no doubt. Yeah, there's the history kind of. The Seahawks themselves have to feel good going into this game, just as a whole. Just because, like you said, East Clink, the amount of success that they've had there, this Giants team is not super talented. This may not be a high-scoring game. This could be a very low-scoring game for both teams. But I think the Seahawks have just enough weapons to really put them over the top over a Giants offense that really is anemic. I think the Giants defense is going to give us some fits. There's no doubt about it.
That's why I would expect a low scoring game.
Right. So with that said, then you have to look at the opposing offense, the two offenses, and really I think there's no comparison right now. I mean, just like you said, Eli Manning played one of his better games of the year just because he didn't throw picks, had 11 completions and under 200 yards.
Right.
That's not going to get it done in this game.
Winning with screen passes and throws to your tight end.
Right.
It's essentially how he won.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness that whatever it is that they do well, that they manage to win games, they put it on tape a week before. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Chris Richard is going to have that dialed in.
He has the Broncos to thank for allowing the Giants to put that up on tape.
And the Broncos don't have the linebacking crew that we do.
No, that's really their defense. That's their weakest position group on defense for sure.
Right. And when you talk about covering tight ends and covering screens and all those sort of things, that to me screams B-Wags and KJ Wright. And if I love that matchup, let's do that all day. They'll eat your lunch.
So what's the best way to attack the Giants defense?
Spread them out, bubble screens, quick hitters. Yeah, I just said it. We need to use more bubble screens in this game.
More bubble screens. Oh no.
I know. That's where we're at. It's got to be that we got to go a little more up tempo, got to spread it out, get 4 or 5 wide in there. I want to see a ton of JD McKissick, a ton of CJ Procise, little quick screens, things like that. I think that's the answer. I think that's where we are right now as an offense. And it stinks. That's not how you win Super Bowls. But go to that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning style of spread them out, short little dink and dunk, option routes, that sort of thing, and try to live and die with that.
Whatever you need to do to get a win on the road, that's the important thing.
Right. Well, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think this offense needs to do? How do you attack them if you're Darrell Bevel? Do you just get the good plays binder early, or what's your plan of attack here?
That's one thing that cracked me up. So this weekend I was playing Tecmo Super Bowl.
Yes.
And one thing that Tecmo Super Bowl introduced over the original Tecmo Bowl is they introduced the second playbook. And it got me thinking about Darrell Bevel because you have playbook 1 and you have playbook 2.
Oh.
So, see, this is a Tecmo Super Bowl type issue for the Seahawks. See,
it's in the game.
See, you don't need Madden to get all fancy. You can go all the way back to Super Nintendo and see how these two games match up.
There you go.
But I think it comes down to, one, getting matchups against linebackers, and whether that's getting Thomas Rawls or CJ Procise sounds like he's going to be healthy for this game. Getting some of those matchups outside where you have mismatches against Giants linebackers where you can get a speedy receiver, or you can get Jimmy Graham matched up on one of those guys, and look for those possibilities throughout the game. I think it's going to be tough though, because driving the length of the field, I think we're going to need turnovers. The turnovers are going to be big, and Eli showed that against Denver, right? Not giving up the ball, getting up early. I want to
stop
see.
Just stop dreaming about early leads, Brandon.
I know.
You got to stop. Yeah, I get it. I hold on to dreams a little too long too. We were talking about that a little before we got on the pod. But yeah, this one you got to let go, man. You got to let go.
Okay, it's not going to happen.
He's like Jack in the Titanic, man. You just got to let his hand go from the piece of driftwood and let it drift to the bottom of the ocean. It's done.
Because that's how I just know if the Seahawks can get up by 10 points early and put pressure on an offense like the Giants and Eli Manning.
You bet.
That's how you can. That's how you can really pull away.
I'm just sure that if me and Natalie Portman got to sit down for a drink, that we'd live happily ever after. I'm just sure of it. I know it. It's also a ridiculous dream. It ain't happening.
All right, Adam. Well, I think that wraps up this upcoming game against the Giants. If you're going to the game, be sure to check out Seahawkerspodcast.com/tickets. And a little bit later on the show, we'll be letting you know how you can get in touch with us. If you want to hang out with us and other listeners of the show before this week's game.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to seeing I know a bunch of you guys are already kind of into come and meet us, whether it's at Carlos East or at the game. And that'd be really cool. It's always fun to be able to, meet up with everybody in person. I'm looking forward to it. I know that might be the most exciting part about this trip to me.
Definitely. And we're going to be talking to Patrick Chalvoy coming up from Carlo East. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the situation that the Seahawks are now facing with their offensive line. We've mentioned a couple times now, Luke Joeckel out I've heard anywhere from 2 to 5 weeks, possibly, as he recovers from getting his knee scoped. So this weekend, they were exploring the idea of signing Brandan Albert. Now, Brandan Albert was a left tackle. He had played for, was he with the Dolphins first? And then he was
with the Chiefs first, and then with the Dolphins, and then the Jags.
The Dolphins, though, traded him for a 7th round pick to the Jaguars. He decided he wasn't going to play for the Jaguars, so he went back to the Dolphins, and then he retired because he didn't want to play for Miami. Is that the? I thought he
retired from the Jags.
He retired from the Jags.
Yeah.
Okay. See, this is the confusing part about all this, because
it doesn't much matter.
He didn't want to play for the Jags, essentially.
Yeah, here's what matters about Brandan Albert. He's a left tackle who's been to the Pro Bowl twice. He can play left tackle, and we now have a starting offensive lineman that is going to be out 4 to 5 weeks with this knee cleanup that needed to happen. Now, you're already down Fant, which, you all know how I felt about that anyways, but that's your starter, right?
Right.
So you're already down Fant. Now you're down a second starter in Joeckel on an offensive line that's no good to start with.
Well, let's go back to this, because this was your theory in the offseason, right? That if the Seahawks were going to be successful, 2 guys from the 4, just assuming that our center
is the same.
Yeah, Justin Britt was just going to stay the same. You wanted 2 of the 4 guys to improve to league average.
Right.
Well, we've seen Luke Joeckel perform at that level, and
Correct.
I think we've seen Jermaine Ifedi perform at that level. And that's
Correct.
why the offensive line through the first few weeks has looked good enough to perform, to allow the offense to win games. I think you're onto something this offseason when you said 2 guys needed to be better. Now, with Luke Joeckel going down, we can't just have one dude being an improvement. Like, Mark Lewinsky's probably not going to come into that spot and all of a sudden be playing at the same level as Luke Joeckel. So the idea is go out, get Brandan Albert, who can also be that other guy, the other second okay lineman, to keep this somewhat together as the season goes on, and you get Luke Joeckel back. And then maybe you have 3 guys who are league average.
Yeah, if you're catfishing sane, that's what you do. And that's why I'm so catfishing angry about this. How much did Brandan Albert ask for? There's got to be a way to get that deal done. You just have to get that deal done. You can't just let him leave. It's absolutely insane. This is the straw that has broken the camel's back for me with my trust in this organization when it comes to actually making a go of it with this offensive line. This is the window. Now is the time. Let's go. Quit screwing around. To not sign Brandan Albert right now with Luke Joeckel going down, just like you said, one of the two guys that improved to make this line not the worst, but maybe the 19th best offensive line in the league, to give you a fighting chance. You lose one of those two guys and can't be bothered to bring in another guy. Don't want to do it. I can't stand it.
Let's recognize, Adam, that there were some challenges into making this happen.
Really?
One, the Seahawks have $2 million in salary cap right now. So you're going to be asking a player to restructure his deal. That has to happen first, or you have to trade.
That's my point. You just make it happen, Brandan. I understand it's difficult, but you do it.
I know you understand.
You know what I mean?
I want to make sure everybody understands, though, the different scenarios that have to happen.
All right.
One, you have to get a player to restructure a deal so you can create enough cap space to sign Brandan Albert. He's probably not going to sign for the veteran minimum because you look around the league at what's going on with the offensive line. He has some demand in him, and that's why when I'll get to that. But the idea that he's going to sign for veteran minimum, I don't believe that's the case. Now, the other thing is if you can't create that cap space by restructuring a guy's salary, then you have to trade somebody, and that can open up cap space as well. But finding somebody who's willing to be a willing trade partner to trade for a guy. What are your options? You have Jimmy Graham, you have Michael Bennett, who would maybe open up that amount of space. They aren't going to do that. You have Jeremy Lane potentially. So those are kind of the guys where you would look at and say, okay, here's guys that are kind of getting toward the end of their career, or Jeremy Lane maybe not living up to the amount of contract that you're paying him. You have enough guys at that spot where you could be successful if you traded a guy like Jeremy Lane. And so those really are options. So you had to do those other things first to make a deal with Brandan Albert work. And like we saw,
there's a million ways to massage the cap. There's a million ways to massage.
There's a ton of ways to do it.
Right.
Whether
you didn't have to do it beforehand either. You can agree in principle on a deal and then move the chess pieces around to make it happen.
Well, and that's my big question around all of this, because Brandan Albert reportedly was in Seattle throughout the bye week. Now, why didn't
Does Brandan Albert like weed? I'm just asking.
I don't know Brandan Albert personally.
That sounded more or less to me the reason why he didn't want to play for the Jags that last year.
Really?
Yeah. And so the idea that maybe he stuck around Seattle for a couple extra days, it could easily have nothing to do with whether or not a contract is forthcoming.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
It could just be recreational.
It could be that makes so much more sense to me than some of the ideas that I was seeing, because the idea that the Seahawks weren't willing to. So a few of the stories came out this weekend speculating on why Brandan Albert may still be around, and a lot of it had to do with the bye week and the idea that you break up a salary into 17 different pieces throughout the season, and that's the guy's check. And so that the Seahawks were maybe trying to save a little money because by not paying him for the bye week, right?
I guess.
This is why it makes no sense to me.
Because you pay him whatever you're paying him, right? No, it doesn't matter how many.
Whether you split it up into 15
pieces,
pieces, whether you split it into 14 pieces, how would that matter unless you're planning on cutting the guy before the end of the season? And why would you plan to cut a guy like Brandan Albert before the end of the season?
I don't know. I mean, I guess if he turns out terrible, that happens.
It does happen. But to use that as the contingency. One, what kind of message does it send to Brandan Albert? We think you might be terrible, so we might need to cut you, and we might want to save that money. Two, you're also risking the fact, how many injuries have we seen this year? You're risking the fact that a left tackle could go down on Sunday if you don't sign him before that Sunday, and then the price goes up. So that's a pretty big bet that you're willing to make to save, how much really?
And on top of all of that, wouldn't you want to sign him and bring him in during the bye week and get him up to speed on the offense? Give him an extra week of practice, work himself into football shape a little better?
Well, because of the way the CBA is structured, they may not be able to do that. You might be able to give him a playbook, but I don't think you're able to bring him in and make him work. Yeah.
Anything. Just the idea that you can just give him a playbook is huge.
Right.
But it doesn't freaking matter because they're not going to do it. Because this front office has the biggest blind spot in all of front offices. I'm fed up, man. I'm fed up. We're in this position. Aaron Rodgers goes down with the Packers. Nobody else in the NFC you look at really scares you. The window is wide open. It's there. The number 1 seed is begging to be taken. Begging. It says, please, Seattle, come get me. Have more home games at the Clink and a bye. And John Schneider can't be bothered. And it just, I'm at wit's end, man. This was easy. It was teed up to you on a silver platter. All you had to do was pull the freaking trigger. And they don't do it. And now we'll struggle through another game with a good defensive line that we're going up against. And it could cost you a road game right there. Boom. Right there. Coming up here against the Giants.
Well, the one piece of information that we are missing is how much Brandan Albert is asking for. If it's something crazy like 13, 14 million, then those challenges of restructuring really come in, because how do you free up that much space and keep it to a short-term deal if you don't want a guy like Albert long-term?
Well, that's all fine and dandy to think that maybe he has a large number in mind, but he can only have a large number in mind if there is a line of teams waiting for him to sign him for his services.
Sure.
There is not. There isn't a huge market for Brandan Albert. There's a reason he's still out on the street. So it's not like he has any leverage.
Well, his leverage is, if I don't get this number, I'm not going to play. That can be his leverage.
Here's the thing. You know for a fact that the organization would have it leaked out that he asked for the moon and the stars. If that was the case.
I don't know if our organization does that.
Are you serious? They leak out crap all the time, man.
They do, but generally not around. When was the last piece of information you saw come out on, because they had Kaepernick in, right? Yeah. They never leaked out what they offered Kaepernick.
Point is, this organization, when it's convenient for them, they leak out little things. You hear it. It comes out through G. Scott. It comes out through Brock Heward. All the guys that have it comes out through John Clayton.
Yeah.
They have their sources, and it would have.
That's the one piece of information that I'm going to be watching for, because that's what I'm most interested in, is because I can't.
Why?
Well, I want to know why. Why can't this happen?
Because they're too catfish stubborn.
I don't think that's what it is.
Really? The track record over the last 3 years doesn't make you believe that's what it is?
They brought in Luke Joeckel. They spent that money to bring in Luke Joeckel, and they narrowly missed on getting TJ Lang.
How many other dudes have they just either had no interest in or just dicked around with?
Yeah, well, they've brought him in, and then they've cut him.
This is what I'm saying.
But they didn't even bring him in to cut him.
This organization is remarkably stubborn with the idea of bringing in veterans to play offensive line. They don't like it, they don't want to do it, and they don't believe it will work. And so all they do is they trot out these young guys with very little experience and try to make them into Pro Bowlers, and we sit there and struggle and watch our quarterback get killed. That's what we do. And they're unbelievably stubborn in that aspect. Well, and they won't budge on it.
If I were a veteran offensive lineman and I've seen what's happened in Seattle, I would want a certain number guaranteed. I wouldn't want to go, like I was saying earlier, with the idea that potentially saving money by cutting him in the season. If I were coming in, I'd say, hey, guarantee my salary for this season. And that's what I need. I need, if you're only going to pay me 1 year, do like you did with Luke Joeckel. And I want that money as signing bonus.
And if you're smart as an organization, you say, yep, and you just get it done. It's just Paul Allen's money that he's willing to spend. It's just money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know I got really frustrated here, but it's just, you can defend them all you want with these decisions, man, but there comes a point where it's indefensible. When you can't look at them with a straight face anymore and be like, they've burned through too many benefits of doubts. I don't have any more benefits to give.
So
all I got is doubts.
There's other options out there of trading for Dwayne Brown with the Texans. There's Cordy Glenn, who they reportedly were interested in, the lineman from Buffalo. With the trade deadline coming up, are those still in play? Or do you think this is
doubt it?
This was it?
Doubt it. The in-season trades are extremely rare to start. And number two, they do not deem offensive line important enough to divulge assets on it. They won't do it.
Yeah, it needs to happen. This last week, as I was looking at all the options, I didn't care which one it was. Take a swing. Sure, pick one. Sign Brandan Albert, trade for Dwayne Brown, trade for Cordy Glenn, whatever it needs to be done this year, because it is wide open and you have an opportunity to improve your team.
In the most important spot, or the part of your team that has the most area to improve in. Right. You know what I mean? In the one that is seemingly holding this team back. It is absolutely the anchor of this team in the bad sense. It's dragging you down. It's holding you back.
The only explanation is that they feel it's a Super Bowl team with the personnel that they have right now.
Well, then you're just plain wrong. You can't have a position group that's one of the 5 worst in all of football, especially if it's one of the position groups in the trenches, and expect to win a championship. It doesn't work that way. It's never worked that way. Ever. In the history of all of football ever. Ask Sammy Baugh. Ask Newt Rockney. Go back as far as you want. You can't have subpar offensive or line play, whether that's defense or offense, and expect to win a title. It doesn't happen.
So going into this game against the Giants, this is going to be the test, right? This is going to be the test on this offensive line, because you go up against a line with Harrison, with Pierre-Paul, with Olivier Vernon, and you see what happens. If it's disastrous, are you rooting for a disaster so they go out and fix it? Or is just squeaking by against this Giants defense going to be
enough to keep doing what you're doing to justify just the same course?
Right.
Yeah.
You think?
I mean, that's what this first part of the season's been, right? Just squeaking by.
Until you get to the second half of the season, then you're awesome, which is what's happened historically.
Except for what has also happened historically with these bad offensive lines is we get to the second round of the playoffs, face one good defensive line, and get dump trucked.
Right.
The year we won the Super Bowl, the offensive line was pretty decent.
Yeah.
They were a pretty good line. You don't have to be the best. I'm just saying you can't be one of the bottom 5 units.
And the second year we went to the Super Bowl against the Patriots, it was Justin Britt at right tackle where you pointed at and said that's the weakness on the line. It was one spot.
Yeah, and now he's your best player by far.
Which is cool. And when you see a guy...
Is it though?
Well, it's...
I mean, when
cool.
you think about it in those terms. Yeah.
It's cool when you question... We've questioned Tom Cable plenty of times and what he's done with players on the offensive line. But you have seen improvement through guys over the years. Justin Britt, first year wasn't great. Second year wasn't great. Improved when they moved him to center. J.R. Sweezy started out as a defensive lineman, and now with Tampa Bay, you're seeing him do well down there. So he has taken guys and developed guys after 2 or 3 years. Max Unger was another guy. His first 2 years not that great. He developed into a top tier center.
He wasn't a Pete Carroll, John Schneider, Tom Cable pick.
He wasn't their pick, but he was developed into a starter under Tom Cable.
Sure. There's been a few guys he's done that with, and then there's been a few guys he's whiffed with where they've gone on and been better on other teams. So, I mean, the track record at best is 50-50 for Tom Cable in this.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's good. I don't know.
And the couple of guys that I do look at as being better, J.R. Sweezy, James Carpenter, they
not on the team anymore.
Not on the team anymore, I don't care. But they had improved.
Once you get him to improve and then you let him go.
Right.
You suffer through the struggles and then you let him go. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
The other thing, looking at Joeckel missing the next few weeks, obviously not signing Albert, obviously not pulling the trigger on these trades. That's fine. The idea of Mark Lewinsky being first man up at left guard, the only hope that I have is one of the ways they tried to address the offensive line is by drafting Ethan Posick. Hopefully Posick is the guy that steps in at left guard and is unexpectedly good at it. Like that's literally my one hope.
I think that's not a good thing to hope for, just based on the fact that I don't think he's going to come in and be a solution there right away. It's going to take him some time too.
Do we know that for sure? Because that's what they said about Odiambo up and down, right? Like, it just still needs time, blah, blah, blah. It won't be an upgrade. And with the second he entered the starting lineup, he was an upgrade over Fant.
Maybe not a huge upgrade, but...
just like, I mean, a significant upgrade. You went from dead last to, probably, again, in the 18th, 19th best left tackle in the league.
I don't know if they're ranking him to quite that high as best toward the best left tackles.
But he was definitely better than Fant. It was a clear upgrade. He's not perfect, no. So, I mean, all you can hope for is Posick can do a Luke Joeckel impersonation.
Sure.
How much confidence do I have in that? About 6%. It's just, I don't know, man. When you're that thin in a position group of quality players and you have one of them go out for a number of weeks and then you refuse to address it, I don't know what to tell you guys as fans. I mean, it's a slap in the face. Slap in the face to all those defensive players too. I know you want to say again, we don't have all the facts.
I know,
and give
we were
them
missing
time
information for me to make a call on this. What?
Quit coddling these guys. Just look at the history, man. It's not like I've got on this podcast and not been yelling about the offensive line for 2 straight years.
Yeah, at least, right?
Yeah, I'm being conservative there. So, I mean, when you have that kind of history in that kind of decision making, then you know, I don't need to see all the facts. I already know. Because I've seen all the facts of all of the things in the past.
All right, Adam. Well, what do you say we pick up this conversation a little bit? Bring on our bartender, who we may be needing mini drinks from this weekend.
Yes. I like that. Yeah, the booze will help.
Yes,
the booze will help. Exactly. The Seahawks make daddy drink. Yeah, that's what happens. They absolutely do.
So let's bring on Patrick Chalvoy, bartender from Carroll East, and talk a little bit about what's going on this weekend, and hear a little bit about his story working there and behind the bar there in New York City. This week, we welcome on the show Patrick Chalvoy, bartender at Carroll East since 2007. Carroll East is one of the top Seahawks bars in the country. If you're looking for a place to watch a Seahawks game, especially in New York City, Carroll East is the place to go. It has been for several years. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, Brandan? How you doing?
I am well. Patrick, when I told my wife that I was going to be talking to a bartender from a Seahawks bar in New York, this was the first question she had, and I'm hoping you can answer it. Why is there a Seahawks bar in New York City?
It's amazing, isn't it, in here? A lot of people don't really understand that. That was like 3 years ago. It was John Ryan and Sarah Kalana, right? Uh-huh. They stopped. They were in New York, and for some reason they wound up to go into our bar. They had no idea. It was totally kismet. But even John Ryan, and he's like, wow, how is this a 12 bar?
How does this happen?
It's like little moments like that.
So this all started before the Super Bowl, before Pete Carroll. This was during Jim Mora's first and only season coaching the Seahawks. So this idea of starting a Seahawks bar in New York, this wasn't a marketing strategy where you said, hey, the Seahawks are looking good. Maybe we need a place for fans in the city to hang out.
Yeah, it wasn't like a strategy for us in here where somebody said, hey, where can we, could draw up, business, like we're just like a real kind of no frills, like, shot in a beer kind of bar. This is an old bar, Carroll East, where we've been here forever.
So how did it all start? How did you guys make that decision that Seahawks fans were going to start gathering there on game day?
I think it was 2 or 3 guys, and I think that they got chased out. That's what it was for 3 or 4 bars. They're mostly on uptown, midtown, and on the Upper East Side and stuff. And they really just getting the time of day for anybody even here. Oh, the Seahawks, we're never going to put the game on. It's that type of thing. Uh-huh. So they're still looking in here, and they're like, it was just an idea on my end. I'm like, guys, let me pitch it. to my boss. That was in the summer of 2009. And I'm just like, what do you think, boss? We don't have to do anything crazy, but if a few dozen people come in here, we're not doing anything on Sunday afternoons. We're not doing anything right in here. But, how are the Giants doing? How are the Jets doing? That's all it was. We didn't have anything going on. And once we finally had the Beastquake at that bar in our first playoff game, my boss was here and he saw that we were like sardines, just packed to the brim, that many people in. And we won that game, right there in the fourth quarter. And he saw this place and he said, Pat, no problem. This is the best. This is the Seahawks bar. This is the 12s bar forever.
Tell me about what it's like on an average game day at Carroll East. I read somewhere that people there act just like they would if they're playing at CenturyLink. It's noisy when the Seahawks are on defense, quiet on offense. What's it like there?
If you're coming into Carroll East, it's on, 8 TVs and the sound is right in your ear. You know what I mean? And we're all going crazy and we're all tuned in right now. We made that our own priority, right from day one. And I think the big difference is that we have our own chants. We have our own little traditions now, just because now we're going in like 8 and 9 years. Yeah. Now we have a cowbell. Thanks for one guy, 112 who lives down in the South. And every time we score, every time we score points, it's ding, 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 ding. That's now becoming our thing in here. That's going to be there forever. But, it's just very special.
The Seahawks are coming to town this Sunday. For those of us coming into town, is it every night leading up to the game going to be things going on? Is it just game day? What are some of the things that you guys are doing when the Seahawks come into town?
We're the welcome wagon. We are. And people will be coming. We come. It's not Blue Friday. It's going to be Blue Saturday. People know we are just enough at this point of a destination that people are going to come to Carroll East, and we're going to come out in here. We are going to hang out in here. We're ready for you, and you're coming all day, all night. So that has been going on for years. It's not our first rodeo. You know what I'm saying?
So what is the best way to get to Carroll East? Is there a stop that people should be looking for off of the subway?
It's right off. If you ever heard the Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, that's where we are. We're literally 3 short blocks from the Met. It's on 85th and Lexington, so like 86th Street on the subway over in here. So it's a very easy way for people to get there.
So Patrick, almost 2.5 years ago, you suffered a stroke in the morning before going to work, and doctors put you into a medically induced coma. I know recovering from a stroke can be difficult. How's the recovery process been for you?
It was pretty bad for the first year or so in here. I really had speech problems in here. I couldn't speak at all. It shows you're a little numb on the one side in here. Like for me, it's on the right side, unfortunately, because I'm right-handed. But it is what it is. I have these specific limitations right in here. But no, I'm pretty lucky. But I mean, nobody has better a support system than I do, and I've got my family, I've got my friends, and one of those is all of the NY Seahawks and really kind of the 12s.
Well, after your stroke, Seahawks fans came together. They helped raise almost $25,000 on a GoFundMe page. How did that come about?
That's right. You know who started that up? There's one guy. His name is Scott Iwata. He and I were friends. We go right back until Carroll East together, right from day one. He felt like, I think, that he had to do something because he couldn't go back to New York anymore. Here, he's not in New York anymore. So that's why he started GoFundMe. And I think that must have been for almost 1 year where it paid for my speech therapy sessions the whole time.
Wow.
And I don't know if you know how much money that costs, but it does. And I just I am always forever in his debt. I just can't believe, it's not just Scott. Scott really he speared the whole moment, you know what I mean? But those are hundreds and hundreds of people. They're all 12s who saw my story. I'm sure it was Larry Stone at the Seattle Times, you know, and everybody saw it and they donated, you know, and it's always overwhelming, you know. I just remember that, you know, when I was in the hospital, you know, I mean, I had a lot of medications. You need that when you're in the hospital and you've been here, but I was crying like on and off in here. You know, I'm not a really, really big emotional guy, but I was crying just to think about it. It was very overwhelming.
Well, I have to think because, you know, seeing all the people that you've met through the bar and probably a lot of people who you haven't even met, and they're rallying to support you based on just what you've been able to do there at Carlo East.
That's exactly what it was. The other one that I have to tell you right now in here is that the bar itself, that's my regulars. Those are not 12s. Those are all my regulars because I've lived at that bar for 10 years now in here. Between the GoFundMe, just with all our NY Seahawks, you know, I think they chipped in for about, you know, $15,000 or something in here for one benefit in here in Midtown. Wow. There was a ton of money. There was a lot of money that came in here, and that is only with the ownership at Carlo East. You know, that was my boss. There were 3 different groups who owned the bar. They all took care of me. All of the regulars who have known me for years have chipped in. You know, it's an Irish bar. Everybody just knows in. You know, it's like going to mass. You know, like they pass in the basket. You know, and everybody puts in. It's the same exact thing, except that was tens of thousands of dollars that comes in my way. So, to tell you the truth, like you know, I cannot ever. I would have to let you know that Carlo Weiss took care of me too.
No, that's awesome because I just knowing that you've touched so many people through your work there, that when you were in need, so many people different came through. You know, the support can make or break a whole person, you know, like, I'm forever in my debt. That's all I can say. Well, Patrick, I really want to thank you for coming on, sharing your story. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person at Carlo East on Saturday. I can't wait. Likewise, man. I'm very happy to see you too, man. Appreciate you coming on the show. Appreciate everything you do for our fellow Seahawks fans every Sunday. And we'll look forward to seeing you this weekend. Absolutely, man. Go Hawks, brother. I'll talk to you later. Go Hawks. Thanks to Patrick for coming on the show this week. Be sure and check out the Seahawks Road Crew Facebook page. Just search for it in Google, Seahawks Road Crew. Check it out on Facebook. I was looking at it. Ricardo Lockett's mom and dad are going to be at Carlo East Saturday night. Oh, cool. Yeah. We've talked to Ricardo's dad before. Yeah. Really nice guy. Yeah. Really nice guy. Well, that'd be cool. I don't know. We haven't finalized exactly when we're going to be where, but if we happen to be there at the same time, that'd be cool. I think it looks like they're going to be there around 8 p.m. So that might be right around the window that we're looking to be there. Oh, neat. Well, very cool. All right, Adam. Well, what do you say we welcome some new members of the flock? We have a flock. Yes. Can I apologize to one of the members of the flock? Yes, though, you may. Before we go on. Okay. All right. So I know Young Choi is gonna be upset with me being upset about the offensive line. So I'm just sorry to Young, but sometimes I gotta let it rip, man. Like I've been doing good for a while. It's been pretty much this entire season so far, and I haven't had one explosion over the offensive line yet. So, I mean, I'm sorry. You feel like you deserve that one a little bit? No, not deserve it. I was just saying it's inevitable. Like I can't promise that I'm not going to do it forever. You know, I'm going to fall off the wagon. So, anyways, sorry, Young. You just need some help, man. I get right to about step 8 in trying to recover from ranting about the offensive line, and the wheels just fall off. And then John Schneider does something to just push you over the edge. Just triggers me. Triggered. Yeah. All right. Well, we have some new members of the flock to welcome. We also have an anonymous donor coming in with a Flocktimus Maximus donation. Remember, Adam, a couple months back, we said we had an anonymous donor who was going to match the donations for everybody that donated $3 or more. Yeah. He was going to match the donations. Well, he asked me for the number,
Yep.
He said it was too low, so he donated $360. And to you, sir, thank you. You know who you are. We appreciate it.
He's the man. Well, thank you very much. That's going to go a long ways to helping us out with some stuff. I was struggling with a whole number of equipment issues today that are looking like they're going to need to be upgraded. Maybe we can... some of that will definitely help with that.
Yeah, a new deck for a new recording deck for you. I mentioned in the past getting you a monitor as well, so you don't have to squint to see me on the other side of the room.
Brandon was appalled when he came into my little podcast studio, and the monitor that I have hanging from the ceiling, I don't know, it can't be more than 12 inches across.
It's like a 12-inch monitor.
13-inch monitor.
It's about, I don't know, 8 feet from Adam's face.
Oh, easy. It's not quite that far. Yeah. It's probably more like 4 foot. I've been making do. I've been fine with it. But Brandon was like, "Oh man, no, it can't be like this. You got to do better."
I was trying to show Adam how to do something, how to do audio clips, and I had to lean over across the desk to be able to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how you do it.
And I have pretty okay eyesight. Like I can use glasses. I don't need glasses, but I needed to lean over the desk.
That's my move when I use this computer.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's doable, but it's nice when things like this come in to be able to make some upgrades.
Can upgrade a little bit, then I don't have to look like an idiot leaning over my desk to use the computer.
And you only look like an idiot to me, so maybe no one notices, but...
Well, that's true, but I can still... I feel like an idiot.
Right.
So there's that.
Well, it's we got one new member of the flock, and that was a $1 pledge from Douglas. Says, "Hey guys, I just signed up as a patron. I know it's taken me way too long, and you guys have helped me keep connected with my hometown ever since I moved to New York City. I know it wasn't your aim, but I wanted to let you know that at least to this Seattle transplant, your podcast helps with my homesickness." And he offered to buy us a couple beers at Carroll East. So
nice.
Definitely be letting Douglas know where we're going to be.
Right.
I would love to put a face to the voices that have turned my passive fandom of the Seahawks into the obsession that it is today. Thanks from Doug.
Hey, thanks, Doug. I mean, careful now. Like, you might get what you ask or wish for there. You might actually get to put these faces to those voices. And I'm not sure that's an upgrade. I'm not sure that's a benefit.
Maybe not. But we did go...
But if Doug wants to come and buy us a beer, that's cool. I'll buy him one after that. It's going to be great.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so what we've done, if you go to getintheflock.com, we've set up a Facebook group just for those of you who are planning to be in town for the game. So we have a page just for that. So go to getintheflock.com. The link to the Facebook group is there. I'll give a click to approve you to the group. And that way, when I'm going to post some tentative plans for now and pin it to the top of the page. And then from there, that'll be our means of communication to let you know where we'll be at while we're in town. So that way we can make it happen.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. Because I mean, out of everything, that's definitely what I'm looking forward to the most. Even though I've never been to New York City, so I don't know. It's going to be a fun trip.
I know we've already made some plans for tailgating with our Ring of Honor group, and so
good. This
is going to be a good time. We're going to have fun.
Absolutely. I really don't know what we're doing for the most part. Brandon's the plan man, and he's got us all lined out. So this is going to be cool. I'm excited about it.
And then also, I had a shout out and thank you to Brandan Hicks, who gave us a raise up to the 1212 level. So we'll be sure that and thank Brandan at the first of every month when we do our shows and our shout outs to our $12 and up donors.
Absolutely. Anybody that ends up there, up in that 1212 or $12 level, that just it's stunning to me and appreciated. That's awesome, man.
$3 a show, or even less than that, maybe $1.50 for show when you break in the bonus shows as well.
Yeah, exactly, because you get the bonus, and the bonus is fun. Even though my picks are yet again a disaster.
Everybody's picks were a disaster this week, Adam.
This is one of the weirdest years that I can remember in the NFL. Man.
I feel like we complain about this every year.
Yeah, well, there's lots of things. Like Aaron Rodgers breaks his collarbone. I just get an update on my phone right now.
Yeah,
that Andrew Luck suffers a setback in his recovery, and Colts can't confirm that he will even play in 2017.
Yeah.
I mean, these are things that you can't predict. Like, these teams are all over the map, man. The Giants start out 0-5 and then beat the Broncos at home. Okay.
So many favorites. As we ran down the picks last week, there were a couple picks where you wanted to go with your gut, but because it was such, 10-point favorites or more, how many of those went down this week?
Yeah.
It's wild.
I can't recall. Yeah. There's a few.
It was like 3 or 4.
Yeah. So good luck. Good luck with the picks. But the bonus shows, you get all of our bad picks and the reasons behind them. We have a lot of fun with that. And also bring up different topics around the NFL that we don't necessarily cover on the show. So if you would like to get in the flock and get those bonus shows, all it takes, $1 a month, you get some stickers in the mail too. So get it done, people. Come be a little flocker.
Well, you mentioned the Pick'em League, and I do want to shout out to Tacoma Seahawks for being the one person with a team name that got into the bonus this week at 140 points. Pretty impressive.
That's in the overall league?
That's in the... How
many people got into the bonus total?
I have 4 people here in our week 6 leaderboard that got into the bonus.
That's it, huh?
Yeah. And one is...
Out of 440 people?
And one is TF Bears fan. So I don't even think that they're probably a listener to the show. They probably just saw our group and wanted to join.
And why wouldn't you? We're awesome.
I know. And then we had quite a few people in at 100. We had I'm going to eat some China food. Russell Pro Size. BA is a huge
Catfish!
Yes.
Maryland Patapsco.
Okay.
You look so beautiful that night. And Jace for Seahawks.
Thanks. Oh, all right. Good names there.
And we'll get into the winners for our patron league in our bonus show this week.
All right. Sounds like a plan, dude.
Overall leaderboard for our Seahawkers podcast group. Up in the number 1 spot. Altris still hanging on, 790 points. Seahawk Sean still hasn't changed his name, 780 points. PBRU Sirius, 750. And Hawks Dozen at 710.
I'm somehow 170 points out of the lead. That's stupid.
Yeah. I think I might be more than I think I might be 240 points out of the lead.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm still in striking distance of you, though, so that's all that matters.
Okay. Yeah. Except you're not.
If I could have gotten the bonus this week,
dude, I would have. I picked all but 2 games incorrect in the first part of the morning. I only missed 2 between the Thursday night and all the morning games. 2. It's the majority of the games, right?
Yeah.
And then proceeded to miss every single pick in the afternoon and the primetime games. Every single one. Over.
Yeah. Well, me too. I got the Chargers game right.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was mine.
Yep. Nope. It didn't. That's a 1-point game, right? And Derek Carr played. I don't know, man.
We have a review this week and an email. The review is Stranded in Atlanta from Rastaman Rusty.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, God. I feel so bad for this person already.
Oh, he references it, too. Lost in a sea of fair weather Falcon fans. It's hard to find anyone interested in talking Seahawks. Listening to this pod is like talking with friends about the game right after the game. These guys are true fans, and they know what they're talking about. And they're funny. Go Hawks.
Hey, all right. Go Hawks, man. Chin up, dude. It's tough down there. I know it is.
There's a lot of references in there, too, some of our past comments.
Yeah, that's how you know. That's how you know somebody's been listening. And we read all the reviews, good and bad.
It's true.
So if you feel so inclined to write us a review, that'd be great. It helps people know that this show doesn't completely suck, and so maybe more people will download it.
Right?
It works.
I hope it works.
It ought to.
Email here from John, aka Master Guns. He says,
Oh, all right. Yeah. What's going on with Master Guns?
Pentagon update. So.
All right.
So, I started exposing those who work around me, non-Hawks fans, to the podcast.
Oh.
As a result, many have adopted Adam's way of saying, do better. When it comes to referring to people who are performing less than satisfactory.
Yes.
Great job, guys, and way to influence positive change in the Department of Defense. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. That makes me so happy. I love the idea that people are walking around the Pentagon now going, do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when people need to suck it up and do a little bit. This is fantastic. I had no idea our influence could, stretch like it has, across the nation.
Well, that's why Do Better works so well, because it's not saying somebody is
the worst.
Right. It's just saying that I see some potential in you, and you can reach it by doing better.
Yeah. Right now, you're not up to par, but I know you got this, so do better. That's just how. That's good to know. I'm glad Master Guns has infiltrated the Pentagon for us and is spreading the Seahawks sickness to everybody there.
Well, thanks to Master Guns. And I think on the bonus show this week, we're going to get to talking about Doug Baldwin and Roger Goodell recently co-signed on a letter supporting some recent legislation, the Sentencing Reform and Corrections Act of 2017. It was introduced by Senator Chuck Grassley, and the bill is to reduce minimum sentences for nonviolent drug offenders. And this is kind of a cool turning point. I can't remember the last time we saw a player and an NFL commissioner co-sign to give support toward a piece of legislation. And so I think this is what I want to talk about on the bonus show this week, Adam.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's a good topic. And I think what's important is everybody looks at the protests and we all agree, like, okay, they've got some legitimate stuff to protest about. Just a lot of people don't like the way they're doing it. Okay, fine. But we all agree that there's some legitimate stuff to protest about. So the idea is what do you do after the protest?
Right.
What do you do to take it to the next step? Doug Baldwin has been kind of at the tip of that spear for a while now. He's been very proactive about things. So yeah, I look forward to chatting about that more. But it's good to see people try to take the next step with this and try to actually enact change rather than just gripe.
And also Richard Sherman. I want to talk about him in the bonus show as well. He did, and I posted his Better at Life on the Facebook page, so he gets a Better at Life there. But Richard Sherman doing cool things. I want to bring that in, bring up some of his comments that he had in the press conference this week as well.
Sounds good, man.
All right, so let's get on to some Do Better and Better at Life.
All right, man. I Do Better and Better at Life this week is all going to revolve around the Gordon Hayward injury for the Boston Celtics. I don't know if you saw that last night, Brandan. First game of the season, 6 minutes into the first quarter. Hayward goes up for an alley-oop, comes down awkwardly, dislocates his ankle and fractures his tibia. The foot was pointing 90 degrees the wrong direction, and he barely made a noise.
Wow.
He barely even made a sound. That dude's tough. But my Do Better this week is for somebody the next segment is named after. My Do Better this week is for Skip Bayless, because Skip Bayless is a jerk. And he can't even help himself, and he doesn't know when to say things appropriate and not appropriate. Like, there's no self-filtering there. He has no idea, and he really has no empathy. And it's pretty obvious when you see the first thing that he tweeted out about Gordon Hayward right after the dude gets taken off on a stretcher. He tweets, "If Gordon Hayward is gone, maybe for the season, LeBron's path to losing his 6 finals gets even easier." Dude, not the time.
Not the time.
Not the time. This is a heck of a player who has a potential career-ending injury right there on the floor. And the first thing you do is basically gloss over his injury and then take a swipe at LeBron James. How petty are you, man?
That's a look at me tweet. That's a look at me and how trollish I can be. Which is why we have the segment named after him.
Absolutely. So, and there's a few people that took him down. One of them was Todd Gurley, actually, and he said, "Stop being disrespectful like Shannon Sharp told you earlier," and had a tweet to kind of back that up. DeMar DeRozan, Raptors guard, comes out and says, "You're a clown for that tweet after a man gets hurt with a potential career-ending injury. Catfish! Bigger than basketball."
Yeah.
And, everybody kind of came out and was kind of like, "Yeah, you're an idiot." And, to Skip Bayless, quit trying to, just take the shine every time you get the opportunity. Maybe be humble for a couple minutes. Maybe have some empathy for somebody out there who just went through something terrible. Skip Bayless, do better.
It's a good reminder that I think all of us can do better at this, because we've heard the discussion with fantasy football, right? And how people tend to look at players. It's kind of dehumanizing. You think more selfishly on how does this affect me? how does this affect my fantasy team when a player goes down? And we do have to remember that these guys are people.
Yeah, they're still human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah. And that was one of the comments with Richard Sherman in his press conference this week. It made me smile. Is that meeting with the little girl at the hospital? Like he said, she was just excited to see that I existed. Because you see people on TV, you tend to think a lot of things. You're conditioned to be desensitized, I think, of what's on TV, and you tend to think of more of as actors rather than people.
Right.
I think the thing for me though is that I probably do it too. It probably impacts me in some way because I think selfishly, and so I could do a little bit better sometimes.
Okay, so you're 100% right because basically Hayward hits the floor. I'm a Celtics fan as much as a lot of people are passive Seahawks fans. I like the NBA. The Celtics are quote unquote the team I follow, but I'm not a diehard fan, right? So, I'm watching, it's opening night, a bunch of new players, exciting, Gordon Hayward being one of those guys, and he hits the deck, and the announcer starts saying, "Oh my, Gordon Hayward broke his leg. And the camera flipped to it for just 5 seconds maybe before they realized what they're showing.
Yeah.
On the screen. And my first reaction was a gasp of my hand over my mouth. Just oh my God, because you're seeing this, right? And, he's trying to tell the ref to call timeout, it just kind of pointing at his foot. And so my first reaction for the first about 10 seconds was, oh my God, right?
Yeah.
And then my second reaction, because just like you're saying, being a little selfish, was well, God, catfish. 6 minutes in, this is a core piece, man.
Yeah.
This sucks. This sucks for the team. And then it was back to God. That just it was there for a minute.
No, it's normal, and I think it's normal to feel that way. It's just important to recognize when you're when you think that to go, oh yeah, we got for do better. My do better this week. All the crybabies out there around the
crybaby catfish. I
know that's your favorite phrase. I don't want to steal it. Or that is that your dad's phrase?
It's out there for everybody to use. I want that to take over in the Pentagon too.
I would expect it to, because that
does that fit the culture?
It fits the culture.
All right.
And so all the crybabies around the Austin Safarian Jenkins call that brought back the touchdown in the game between the Jets and the Patriots. I know we all want the Patriots to lose. I dislike the Patriots as much as every Seahawks fan. And the Jets had plenty of opportunities to win this game. But when you look back on that play, Safarian Jenkins clearly lost control of the football. His hands there was a still image of his hands off of the football. And when you're going over the goal line, you have to hold on to the ball.
Did he lose possession after he crossed the plane or before?
He lost control before he got over the goal line.
Okay.
And then it looked like he may have regained control as he was going over the pylon. And that was the part that wasn't clear to me. But so the officials looked at it and they saw a clear fumble.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of people going, well, he didn't fumble it because the ball didn't hit the ground. The ball doesn't have to hit the ground to be a fumble. You've seen plenty of guys, receivers, where they're running with the football and a defender comes along, strips the ball out of their hands and takes it the other way. The ball doesn't have to be on the ground to be the fumble.
True. Yeah.
So he lost control of the ball. And the one problem, the one thing that I would agree about is if the officials did not see a clear recovery, then they have to go with the call on the field.
Which
the call on the field was a touchdown.
Oh.
And they brought it back because they saw the fumble and they must have seen enough evidence that he didn't control the football until he was out of bounds.
So it's a tricky call.
It was a very tricky call. And it brings back the idea of people don't like it when a guy fumbles the ball right near the end zone and it goes to the other team, because that's what happened. The ball went back to the Patriots. They got it on the 20-yard line because he fumbled the ball outside the end zone.
Yeah.
The emphasis is you have to control the football as you get toward the goal line. Protecting the ball in that spot of the field is of
paramount.
It's paramount. You have to do it. So I don't have a problem with the rule. It incentivizes holding on to the football as you cross the goal line. So if we're going to cry about this, You're going to miss out on great plays like the one Earl Thomas had. It's still going to be a great play, but if you're going to go and point to that as something that as a rule that needs to be changed,
there's a lot of other ones first,
there's a lot of other
that
ones
we need
first.
to get to. Yeah.
So to point to this one, do better.
I agree, man. People do whine about calls a little too much. There is no doubt about that.
And the Jets lost by a touchdown. I understand. We wanted the Jets to win that game, but they had they had other chances.
How many times do the Jets play the Patriots every year?
Twice.
Oh, so they're going to have another opportunity at this? Yeah. Well, if you're really that pissed off about it, go take your revenge.
Well, the thing to me is the officials didn't decide the outcome to this game. The Jets had their chances.
Yeah. So, no, I agree with you, man. Yeah.
Hold on to the ball at the goal line. Just do it.
Yeah. Crybaby.
Catfish!
Well, before we get to your Better at Life, Adam, I want to bring in a guest Better at Life this week because our Washington State Lieutenant Governor tweeted at us this week. He said, consider this to be one listener's humble opinion for Better at Life. And I already had my Better at Life locked and loaded for this week. I've had it locked and loaded for a while.
Right.
But I didn't want to gloss over this.
Okay.
Because Lieutenant Governor Habib and Adam, I'm willing to be bipartisan on this. So if there's any other lieutenant governors or governors from any other states that want to send in Better at Life nominations, I'm completely willing. Your door's open. My door's open. I'm completely nonpartisan on this.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm happy to build more contacts in the U.S. government.
Right.
This works for me.
Well, Lieutenant Governor Habib, he tweeted out, said, I'm incredibly impressed by this organizing effort by Russell Okung, former Seahawk left tackle. I'm cheering him on now more than I even did when he was a Hawk. And Russell Okung, this last week, he wrote an article for the Players Tribune talking about how important it is for players to organize themselves when big issues come up around the league. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it probably came from a lot of the anthem issues, but he was pointing out the idea that with only 32 owners, it's easy for all 32 owners to have each other's phone numbers and to be able to communicate quickly and around issues, to be able to organize. Mm-hmm. And I think what Lieutenant Governor Habib was pointing out here is that the players do have the players union where they can organize as a union. But I think in this day and age, with all of the electronic communication, I think it makes it possible to have a lot more people involved in big time issues than just player representatives from each individual team. And so what he wanted to do, what Russell Okung wants to do, is just get players more involved, get them communicating, talking to one another. And that way, when things come up, like Okung said in his article, he said, I wish I could reach out to Colin Kaepernick and express, my appreciation for some of the things that he's done, but I don't have that ability. And for all these players playing in the NFL, that to have that kind of brotherhood, I think there should be a way to do that. And so I think what he's pointing out is it's good that someone is making the effort to recognize this and try and bring it all together.
No, it's pretty cool. What does he want to make a page like Facebook for football players? They call it like Footbook. Yeah. Like something like that. Is that what you do?
Maybe. I know that I know that there's the ability out there to make something happen, and maybe I think from his article he's not saying that he has the answer, but he's willing to make the effort to make something happen.
Oh, cool.
So,
well, yeah, no, I like the idea. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And Okung, a very thoughtful man, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And reading his article, if you haven't checked it out, it's a good read.
Well, thanks to Cyrus for bringing up Okung as Better at Life than Skip Bayless.
All right, Adam, who you got for Better at Life?
All right. My Better at Life this week is for somebody that I can't believe I'm making my Better at Life. It's for Kobe Bryant. And again, this revolves around the Gordon Hayward injury.
He's coming back to fill in for Gordon Hayward and take the Celtics to a championship. No?
I don't think I could handle that.
No, you wouldn't like that.
I don't think I could have lifelong Laker Kobe Bryant on the Celtics.
It wouldn't happen.
I mean, I know Shaq ended up there at the end of his career, but he had bounced around a lot. Like Kobe's a whole nother animal. I don't think so.
Okay.
But
you're giving him that you're better at life, though. So I'm just wondering how far you're taking this.
Yeah. Okay. So he puts out on Instagram a picture of Gordon Hayward, basically the team photo, right? And he writes this as the caption, and I think this is really great. So the Mamba writes, "Be sad, be mad, be frustrated, scream, cry, sulk. When you wake up, you will think it was just a nightmare, only to realize it's all too real. You'll be angry and wish for that day back, the game back, that play back. But reality gives nothing back, and nor should you. Time to move on and focus on doing everything in your power to prepare for surgery. Ask all the questions to be sure you understand fully the procedure so that you may visualize it in your subconscious while being operated on and better the chance of its success. Then focus on the recovery process day by day by day. It's a long journey, but if you focus on the many milestones along the way, you will find beauty in the struggle of doing simple things that prior to this injury were taken for granted. This will also mean that when you return, you will have a new perspective. You'll be so appreciative of being able to stand, walk, run, that you will train harder than you ever have. You see the belief within you grow with each mini milestone, and you will come back a better player for it. Best of luck to you on this journey, my brother. Mamba mentality, always." I thought that was a really cool statement by Kobe Bryant, and somebody who's gone through devastating injury himself. I mean, near the end of his career, tore his Achilles, a terrible injury, especially for basketball players, and the recovery process is long and slow for that. But just the idea of how to deal with adversity when it does strike, go ahead and be upset, be frustrated, let it out, and then accept it and take all the little challenges along the way of coming back as gifts. And I just thought, for putting out a blueprint of how to deal with adversity, Kobe Bryant this week, better at life than Skip Bayless.
When I heard you say that coming from Kobe Bryant, I heard a lot of Phil Jackson in that too.
Yeah, you got some Zen Master mixed in there.
I heard some Zen Master mixed in with that. No doubt.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. And he's gotten older, man. Like, he's just gotten a lot more sage as he's gotten older. Yeah. And for him to put that out for a Celtic too.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
that's pretty cool.
Well, my better at life this week, having a little fun again, because October 20th, 2017 marks the 50th anniversary of the footage that was released of the first sighting of Bigfoot, Adam.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And 50 years later, no legitimate video footage has been offered up. No remains have been found of Bigfoot, which leads me to conclude Bigfoot is really good at hiding.
Absolutely.
So for all of his work, staying out of the limelight, its ability to keep hidden from the public, and for providing us with entertaining reasons to get out in the woods and conduct our own searches for the past 50 years, Bigfoot, better at life than Skip Bayless.
That's great, Brandon. There's a few things I would like to kind of bring up with that. One is, I'm pretty sure I've run into Bigfoot once.
Oh, we haven't shared Bigfoot sighting stories on the show yet.
No. So I was up, there's a little town called Phillipsburg in Montana here, and up above that, there's a ghost town called Granite Ghost Town. Uh-huh. This isn't Garnet, this is Granite, different ghost town. So I was up there. It was right about this time of year, actually. And me and the ex-wife were up there, and we were going to get a Christmas tree. And we're looking around. I didn't have an axe. I didn't have a saw, but I did have a 22 and a few hundred rounds of ammunition. So it's about 100 rounds of ammunition. So I went out there and I found the top of a tree that I liked. And I sat there with the 22. Bap, 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 and I just shot it until it fell off, right? Mm-hmm. Right down to my last couple bullets. Boom, and then it falls over. And I was all proud as punch, right? The ex-wife thinks I'm ridiculous because I am. And I grabbed the tree and I'm dragging it back to the Jeep. And up on the hillside, up above me, I hear in the snow, oh, there were like footprints coming towards me. So I turned around. I mean, it sounded maybe like 150 yards out, kind of in the trees. You couldn't really see. So I turned around. I was like, hello, who's there? Because it did not sound like a something with four legs. It was a bipedal situation here. Like, and there were no other car tracks up there. Nobody lives up there. Nothing. Gets a little louder. Gets a little closer. I'm out of bullets. I used them all to put the tree down. So I yell hello again. Nothing. In a panic, I throw open the Jeep hatch, shove the tree into the Jeep, shut the door, and we hauled ass out of there. I to this day, I swear it was Bigfoot up there.
Well, Bigfoot is in Montana. I mean, we know that.
Oh, yeah.
Because every year in Ellison, Montana, they have the annual Bigfoot hunt.
Yes. Now, the other thing this brings up for me, Brandon, is the Mitch Hedberg joke about Bigfoot. And it's pretty funny. I think you'll enjoy this. And if you're not familiar with comedian Mitch Hedberg, you ought to be. He's kind of the king of like the one-liners.
I think Bigfoot is blurry. That's the problem. It's not the photographer's fault. Bigfoot is blurry. And that's extra scary to me. There's a large, out-of-focus monster roaming the countryside.
That reminds me of the Woody Allen movie, Deconstructing Harry. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Where Robin Williams in the movie, he has a problem, and that's that he's out of focus.
Oh, okay.
And
he's literally out
of focus.
Oh, man. That's a tough break. Yeah. I do enjoy the state of Washington. I can't remember where it was. I want to say it was up in Olympic National Park. Driving around up there, every so often you come across a spot in the road where somebody had taken a Bigfoot imprint with a can of spray paint and like painted footprints going across the road.
Oh, yeah.
Bigfoot footprints. That was fun.
That's what I'm saying. Bigfoot. He's an icon. For 50 years now, he's been an icon.
Yes.
And and on the run.
On the run. On the lam, Bigfoot.
Yep. Better at life than Skip Bayless.
Absolutely. Hey, quick, some breaking news here before we get out of the podcast. Cliff Averill will go on IR for the year, and he is seeing a bunch of doctors and seriously considering retirement.
Why do you have to end on bad news?
Well, it is what it is, man. So to end the podcast, everybody put some positive thoughts out there for Cliff Averill. Hopefully get some good news from the doctors, whether that means he plays or doesn't play, just in quality of life as a whole. You know, thoughts to him. And let's hope he gets back, man. It'd be great to have him back.
Well, let's balance that out with some other good news. Malik McDowell back in practice working out at the facility. So he's actually gotten to the point where he's doing some work around the facility.
This is your favorite story. You track this like a hawk, Malik McDowell news.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just saying. I get it. This is your pet news story. I understand.
I just want to know.
Okay.
All right. Well, I do hope Cliff gets better. As we've talked about, he's been one of my favorite players since he's been with the Hawks, and it would be sad to see him go. But you also hope that just like with when Ricardo Lockett had his scary injury too.
Yes.
You hate to see things like that end players' careers, but you also know that if they're making the choice to end their career, that it's for we want these guys to be well for a long time.
Absolutely. So to Cliff Averill and Malik McDowell, be on the mend, guys. We need you. We need you.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
He said, I would love to put a voice to the faces that...
Face to the voices. Yeah.
I read that wrong.
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just popped up some
Poop fest
window about, let's cross this one off of your list. I don't know what the hell it is. Get out of here. Okay.